We're glad you're here, and you're the most important that we can have today as we begin. We're going to start today with prayer, and opening the prayer is Paul Grist, who is a broker of Grist Real Estate and campaign treasurer for Stephen. He is an active businessman in our county and our community, and has been active in many parts of life in our community. So please welcome Paul today as he comes and leads us in prayer.
Thank you. Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today. As we wrapped up Thanksgiving, we come with grateful hearts to be here today on an exciting announcement for moving forward with this area. So we are grateful for Senator Baldwin and all that he has done, all of his hard work, dedication, compassion, and caring for his constituents. And Lord, we ask that you continue to grant him wisdom in making these tough decisions, to always look at making the right decisions going forward. We know that that's where his heart is, and we as a community support him, and we appreciate all that he does. We are grateful to be here in our community, and thankful for all the people that come around and support not only the community, but our great state. And thankful to live here in almost heaven, West Virginia. God bless. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. At this time, we'll ask if Alan Clower will come. He is a U.S. Army veteran, resident of Oregon Cave, and elder at Rosser Presbyterian Church, a friend of many in our community. If Alan will come and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, please. And I don't know where you are. Stand. Let's stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated.
And I miss seeing Cindy Bowe is here, or Delegate Bowe, who's here and been very active in our community and our party, and in leadership too, and it's good to see her. She always creates excitement as she works with folks. She was one that helped me when I got my COVID shot, so I really... We have community leaders today. They're going to come and talk about our friend, Stephen Baldwin. I will tell you before they come, I've known Stephen since he was a young man, and I watched Stephen grow and develop, and he is a great asset to our community and to our state. So I'm happy to hear what others have to say about Stephen Baldwin. Erin Hurst is the first to come. She's a public health professional at Greenbrier Valley Medical Center, and she's an active member of the COVID task force with Stephen. So listen, please, as Erin comes and shares about Stephen.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. My name's Erin Hurst. I work at Greenbrier Valley Medical Center. I'm the marketing director and I'm also director of community relations, and I'm thrilled to be here. In June 2016, I had only been the executive director of our local United Way for about 8 months. We raised funds, collected supplies, and organized volunteers. It became what I and so many others did to assist those affected by the flood. I got to know Stephen around that time as he was doing what he does best, asking the right questions, gathering accurate information, and rallying available resources. We chatted often during these days and months, me stationed in Lewisburg at St. James Episcopal Church, and him stationed here, there, and everywhere. It was a hard, heartbreaking, heartwarming, challenging time, but Stephen was never rattled. Always calm, understanding of everyone's struggles, and with an endless capacity to care for our communities. Once United Way started to move out of disaster recovery and toward the 211 program, it's this local resource, well, actually it's a nationwide resource, it's an information and referral hotline. We were working on that at United Way. Stephen, in his pastoral role, along with Rosser Presbyterian Church, helped promote United Way's new community program and contribute to its initiation. Again, doing what he does best, gathering information and resources in service to our friends and neighbors. It was in 2020 when Stephen and I connected again. I was still with United Way at the time, and the COVID task force was born, with so many of you part of it. And so we met, was it daily?
For a little while.
Yeah, met daily for a little while. And then it went to kind of every other day, every few days, and then went to weekly. And Stephen was always, I think he's only missed like 2 or something. And so he was always there to guide us and provide you all with the information that came from those meetings. And even folks who are outside of his constituency kept up with those updates, and like all of us, thanked him for the information. So maybe he was internally panicking while we were outwardly panicking, but you'd never know it. And so in spite of how busy he is a husband, a father, a pastor, a senator. He always finds the time to keep members of our communities up to date. And he continues to do so to this day, again, even as busy as he is, because the task force now meets every other week. While I don't wish for another crisis, I do look forward to working with Stephen in whatever capacity the world throws our way. How lucky we are to have this public servant, this caring human representing us. As a member of your constituency, I feel supported. As your friend, I feel gratitude. Thank you for the opportunity to sing your praises. It is a joy and a pleasure to be in your orbit.
Thank you, Erin. I may mention one other person I didn't mention earlier. I saw her and I forgot that she'd moved on me, and that's Debbie Phillips, who was a former delegate from Putnam County. And we're happy to have Debbie in our community. The next person to speak for Stephen this day is a local farmer and businessman. I've known him forever, I think, and that's Ben Long. Ben, would you come at this time? Where is Ben? Back here. Ben is a local farmer for us.
Hello everyone, my name is Ben Long, and I think Ron, you read The Hobbit to my second grade class or third grade class or something, so I've known him forever. So, I also grew up with Stephen before I left the community for about a decade, and very happy to be back. My wife and I moved back about 3 years ago. 4th generation cattle farmer from the valley. As you can tell from my boots, I'm living on the farm this morning as well. So I've been involved with a lot of other businesses in the community. I dove into hemp and also working on medical marijuana to bring more opportunities to the valley, and working with Stephen from all angles of the ag community. He's been on top of it. He's been an asset for the state and also the community from the agricultural level. Really can't say enough. I mean, he's always answering the call or the text with a problem, an issue, and always helping to resolve it, or at least make me feel better whether we can resolve it or not. But no, it's been, I guess when you leave and you come back, you got to get the lay of the land and know who's doing what. And growing up with Stephen, I was excited you were there, but then after working with him, I was even more impressed with his knowledge and ability, and also just always being on top of it and helping, which makes you feel good when you have a problem. So you've got my vote, Senator. Look forward to working with you for many more years to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. And Ben's got to get back to the farm. Yes. Next person who will share with us is probably one of the busiest persons in Greenbrier County the last few years. She's the disaster response professional at the Greenbrier County Emergency Management Office, and that's Paula Brown. And she stays hopping busy all the time. Paula?
I do, and I am so happy to be here, because there isn't anybody that I need to thank more than Stephen for everything he's done. He is the most active individual that has ever helped our office in the history of our office. Anytime we had a need, he was there. He wanted all the facts, issues, problems, needs, whatever we couldn't address, however we had to pivot for the residents of this county, he was there. needless to say, I handle most all of the FEMA grants for the county. And so we've been a little bit busy since the 2016 flood. But when all that money, $89 million in FEMA funds and over $100 million in HUD funds came to the state, there's a lot of hands that wanted on that money. And we had to fight really, really, really hard to get as much money as we could for all the residents of Greenbrier County. And without Stephen, that wouldn't have happened. We had roadblocks. I had troubles just every which way I turned. We had individuals calling all the time saying, I was denied this, I was denied that, what am I going to do? And we worked and we worked and we worked and we worked, and nobody worked harder than him. We got through all that. Those individuals, had to wait from the 2016 flood. The first approvals that we received weren't until 2018, and they're going on until today. So all of those individuals we've been working with all of them through the Greater Greenbrier Long-Term Recovery Group and various unmet needs committees within the community, even his own church doing volunteer work throughout the county for individuals that were still in need and were underserved. So thank you so much. The Greater Greenbrier Long-Term Recovery, Erin was part of that, and that was huge that was the initial development of long-term recovery for the community, and also served all the way into the 2020 flood that we had in Alderson that received no federal support whatsoever. And it was critical that group in this community and the volunteers such as Stephen, who worked so hard, came together for those individuals to try and achieve, again, a second recovery in this county in addition to this 2016 flood. And then the COVID task force, normally our office is used to kind of coordinating a disaster, but being a pandemic, Stephen really stepped up, and as Erin said, united this community, all of the key players in this community. We met routinely, we met weekly to get the right message out, get the right things going in this community, get the right people in the right places, and doing the right things as quickly as we could. We tried to pivot whenever we had to pivot, and it's been a challenge, but my office, my department, and the residents of this county owe a great debt of gratitude to Stephen for everything he's done from the flood and everything since then. So thank you very much.
The next three we'll bring up at the same time because they are part of the same organization, the Local Vietnam Veterans of American Chapter 1108. I have to say they're sometimes forgotten, but Stephen has never forgotten them. And that's Steve Ellison, Hank Fisher, and Stephen Harris. If you would come at this time, or if you have a spokesman that's coming for you, if you would come at this time, please.
You go.
Stephen Ellison gets to speak for me.
My name's Steve Ellison, and I'm a proud veteran. Myself and Hank and John are here today because we're veterans. We're really not here on behalf of Vietnam Veterans of America. We're speaking because we're veterans. I myself was a corpsman during the Vietnam War. I want to first start out by saying there's several of us veterans that meet here in Ronsford. We have PTSD, and we meet every week. We were struggling. We meet here with a counselor every Wednesday. We were struggling for a place to meet, and the Reverend Stephen Baldwin came to us and offered us up his church to meet him. We've been meeting there for quite a while, so we're thankful to you and your session for allowing that to happen. We have not been meeting there very long at all when he came into us as the senator. He walks into the room, there's about 20 of us. I know he knew there were Democrats there, there were Republicans there, and he sits down and he says, "What can I do for you as veterans?" So we had several meetings with him, and we talked about getting some equity with some surrounding states concerning breaks on real estate taxes, personal property taxes. Virginia was the one we came up with. They have, for veterans that are 100% disabled because of service-related disabilities. They don't pay any real estate tax, personal property tax, and their license for their automobiles is also free. So the senator said he would draft up a bill and present it when the legislature met in session. He wanted some bipartisan support, and I told him I would contact a Republican representative who's in the House. He lives near where I live. I live in Monroe County. And I called him, and I'm not going to name him, but he told me it would be too expensive to do these things for those veterans who are 100% disabled with service-connected disabilities. There are 9,000 in the entire state of West Virginia. So we were quite appalled by that, and we don't talk about it much because we do have PTSD, and occasionally we get angry. He did prepare a draft bill, and I suppose it was pretty much dead on arrival. We have a supermajority now, and a lot of these veterans were unable to help us. He is always there for us. He has told us many times he will help us all we can. For that, we are very thankful. I will say this, unlike the majority of politicians, Senator Baldwin is willing to cross the aisle if it is in the best interest of the citizens of West Virginia. We thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Our next speaker is a local farmer, businesswoman. She was a former member of the Farmland Protection Board. Diane Browning is a neighbor of mine, and she's also on the Greenbrier Valley Economic Foundation. I didn't write it down. I can't remember, by the way. Listen as Diane comes and shares as she talks about support with Steve.
Hello. I'm the chair of Blue Skies Ahead, which is the PAC of the Democratic Women's Club. And many years ago, I worked at the Greenbrier with Stephen's father, who left us 2 years ago this month. And I remember Steve saying to me that he thought Stephen was going to be a great public servant. And our families went to church together, and when he was a teenager, our minister, Elizabeth Askew, said she thought Stephen would be a great minister. And I was always watching to see what path he took, and it was so great for all of us. It's the benefit of all of us that he has blended that. Because he is really politically strategic and really kind. And he's very politically smart and very compassionate. And he's a political leader and very humble. So I feel like it's really, really strange times where in this election he's an underdog. And I heard some people say he should probably sit it out and not run this time. But Stephen is brave, and he's true, and he's blue. And the Democratic women, the really energetic Democratic women, are going to do everything we can to get him across the finish line.
Thank you, Diane. Our next speaker is the executive director of High Rocks, and if you don't know who High Rocks is, they really empower young girls to do great things in our community. She's also chair of the Pocahontas County Broadband Council, which is a thankless task. But listen as Sarah Riley comes today and shares with us about Steve.
Well, I have not known Stephen forever. The first time that I ever met Stephen was during the 2016 flood, and those first days afterwards, when somebody called me on the phone and started yelling at me about where were his volunteers. I think I may be the only person in the history of mankind that the first time I met Stephen Baldwin, he was yelling at me. And it's the only time in my life he has ever yelled at me. But that was during that time when nobody knew what to do, and so you just had to jump in and try. And I was jumping in and trying, and so many people were, and that happened in other parts of the state too. But in those places where people jumped in and they started to just try, they also ended up conflicting. and they ended up fighting with each other. And they ended up having to figure out how to navigate around each other to be able to work together. And what happened here in the Greenbrier Valley, in no small part, Stephen, due to you, is that people really, really work together. And in no small part to Cindy and to Erin and to so many other people here, Paula. And I think it's a wonderful thing to be part of a community. Stephen has been, I work with young people, and I believe that the Capitol is our house, and it belongs to us, and we should walk freely there, and that is what democracy is about. And Stephen has been incredibly generous and mindful in meeting with young people and hearing their concerns directly from them, whether it was about Sunday hunting or clean water. There aren't that many people that sit down in the Capitol with young people and treat them with a level of respect and reverence that Stephen has. And I really want to thank him for that. I also, from the broadband, man, we all have to work with young people. We all have to work on recovery and addiction, and we all got to work on broadband. It's the future of our education. It's the future of our healthcare system. It is our economic future. And so I don't know anything about broadband other than that we need it, which I think is about how much Stephen knows about broadband too. But out of the COVID task force that we did, and after Stephen started the one in Greenbrier County, I was like, Stephen, can I start one in Pocahontas County? So I just followed the same thing, and we did that there, and then we've been working across those two for broadband. We just have to try. We have to bring people together. We don't have to know all the answers yet. We just have to try, and I am so happy to be in business with you, Senator Baldwin. Thank you for all that you've done, and thank you to everybody here for being part of a big, big solution that takes us home. Thank you.
Our next speaker is somebody that serves with Stephen in Charleston. He is a senator from Kanawha County, a partner of Tabor and Lindsay. Proud father of two terrific young men, it says here. I've known him many years and watched his career. Let me tell you about Rich Lindsay, who is our next speaker. I will tell you that this is a guy who has integrity at the center of his life. I've watched him deal in downtown Charleston with folks that sometimes people want anything to do with. He dealt with them as their senator and as their representative. So I'm very happy today as he comes to speak for our senator, the Honorable Rich Lindsay, Senator from Kanawha County.
What a beautiful day. I mean, you can't, a little cold for my taste, but it's beautiful nonetheless. Stephen asked me, and Senator Glenn Jeffries, who I shared the 8th District with, down in Charleston, he represents the Putnam portion, but he asked us to be here today, and I said, well, sure, I'll be here to support you. And then he goes, would you like to speak? And I said, well, I'm a politician. I would never turn down an opportunity to speak, especially when it's about someone who I have all the respect for, and that's Stephen Baldwin. I'm going to echo a lot of things I'm going to say are going to sound familiar, and my big takeaway from that is Stephen is the same person to all people, and that's pretty important when it comes to politicians. It's very important when it comes to leadership. Now, I've known Stephen less time than anybody else here. I've only been in the Senate for 3 years, coming up on my 4th year. But I personally think that there are 3 qualities of leadership that are essential. Some of them are spoken about, some of them aren't. But this is my opinion. I think in order to be a good leader, you have to be curious. You have to know what people think. You have to know why they think that way. Not to disagree with them, but to understand their motivation. The same thing with groups or organizations. You need to know what they think and why they think that way. And I think that helps a leader not only get the best out of those around them, but to have the respect of those around them, to be listened to. Stephen listens to everybody. He always is curious about why someone thinks that on that bill or thinks this on the other bill. It's very important to him and makes him a good leader. You have to be committed. You have to be committed to the community that you represent. I mean, we've already heard from Ms. Hurst from the Broadband Council. We've heard about the COVID task force. He is committed in this community, and it won't shock you to know that not all state senators are that in tune to their community. You have someone special here, and it's someone that needs to be kept. Compassion. Stephen is very compassionate. It's already been spoken, but on some things that we've worked on, whether it's trying to get to the bottom of why West Virginia foster care children are abused out of state, or why we still have about 10,000 kids that are homeless in this state. That's not glitzy. You don't win any political points by doing that, by raising those issues, by raising those concerns. But Stephen is compassionate. He feels it in his heart. He lives it every day. You notice that, I'm not here to talk about, or those three qualities have nothing to do, rather, with political affiliation or identity. Because those qualities are across the board and across the spectrum. And as Stephen likes to remind me every once in a while, no one party has a monopoly on all the good ideas. Again, that's something that's important to the people of Greenbrier County. That's an important voice over the state legislature. And so what I ask all of you to do, after you leave here today, if you have friends and kin in Nicholas County, talk to them. Talk to them about what Stephen is and who he is and what he does in this community. That way, it doesn't matter what their political affiliation is. It doesn't matter who they follow. It doesn't matter what they watch or what they read. If you do that, you keep multiplying it from today until Election Day, he will be your senator from Greenbrier County. So please raise him up. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Stephen's given me a script to follow, but I never stick to those scripts very well, and I'm sorry for that. I know you're cold, you're like an iceberg, but you're already frozen, so you can stand a few minutes more. I want to ask if there are others here today who are part of leadership, Glenn or Bill, you've been there, or Debbie, or Cindy, if you all want to say something, or Hazel, where's Hazel? I don't want to embarrass Hazel, but if she wants to say something, she's served on the board with him. If you have something you want to say today, if you want to come up and say something at this point, I won't embarrass you. I did already, but I won't do it again. You want to say something. Anybody want to say anything? Hazel will come? All right. Cindy will come. Hazel's coming. Cindy's coming. Good.
Thank you. And this has always been the worst part of politics for me, is public speaking. But we are so lucky to have this man as a voice for West Virginia. Not just Greenbrier County, not just people who vote a certain way, but for every West Virginian. People that are in Charleston and who think that way and act that way are few and far between. Not only is Stephen one of very few, but he's also become a leader very quickly. And he was a great inspiration to me in my short tenure in Charleston. And I often would look at him and say, you're too kind for what you have to put up with. I know you value your time with your wife and your son and your flock. But whatever you want to do, I am behind you 100%. And that's what he needs from everybody here. 100% minimum. And if you can give more time, money, talking about him, reaching out to him, and just offering a kind word or a prayer. He needs us just as much as we need him. And I am so very, very grateful that, to me, the greatest treasure I receive in my service in this community is my friendship with him. Thank you so much for going back into that fray for us. We so appreciate it.
I got to know Stephen when I was on the Board of Education, and I had done one term, and I was running for a second term, and Stephen was actually running against me. And he beat me out too. But,
I've heard a lot of people say here today that he asks a lot of questions and he's always curious, wanting to know everything. And when we were going to run for this term, he called me, and I didn't know him, never met him, and he said he would like to talk with me. So I met with him in his church, and he wanted to know about being a board member. And I remember telling him, when you get to be on the board, ask questions. Make sure you ask lots of questions. And he does that, and he does that in whatever he does. He works hard at whatever he does. He is a dear friend. I support him in anything that he does because I know he works hard at it, and he represents us as well as anyone could represent us. And I am very glad to see this many people here showing their support for him. Thank you, Stephen.
The wind just keeps going. Phil Sahanich is chair of the Democratic Party in Fayette County. Phil?
There seems to be a theme here today, and that theme might be that Stephen listens to people. He might be the most proactive listener I've ever met in my life. In 2018, when he was first running in Fayette County, I was honored to sort of drag him around our county seat and introduce him to people, and I didn't know Stephen well at that point, and I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's a politician. He barely talked, but he whipped out a spiral notebook and he asked everyone in the courthouse a question, and then he shut up and he wrote down answers and he listened. And I was scratching my head. We were in the vehicle riding after this, and he started telling me he had the ideas he laid out. He said, I think I know what these people need and want. And I realized, as the more time I spent with him, the guy listens to all of us. He cares about all of us, and it's our agenda he fights for. It's us that he fights for regularly. We had Department of Health here from Greenbrier County talking about the amazing job he's done. I came out here from Fayette County this morning, and our head of our Department of Health wanted to be here today. And she wanted me to tell everyone that no one has fought as hard for our Department of Health during the COVID crisis in our county, in Fayette County, than Stephen Baldwin, sitting here in Greenbrier County. So he represents all of us. He represents Fayette County. They gerrymandered us and played with us a little bit, taking some of those votes out of Fayette County. But the remaining votes are all with Stephen, and I think on both sides of the aisle for very good reasons. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I want to introduce the person who probably is Stephen's biggest supporter, I think most of the time anyway. She's a local businesswoman, and she's a proud parent of Harrison, who, if you know Stephen, happens to be Stephen's also. That's Carrie Baldwin, and Carrie's a great asset to Stephen's work in Charleston and here in this community. So please welcome Carrie as she introduces her husband.
While Stephen and I were having dinner, we were talking about today's event. He was going through the program details when suddenly he stopped and said, "Wait, I forgot to ask one of the speakers. You." "What?" I said, while trying not to choke on my Roadhogs barbecue. "Yes, you." "Well, here I stand. But hubby, you know, our relationship is based on honesty, so I'm gonna give you one more chance to change your mind." All right. Silence means go ahead. So here I go. During the last campaign, I was asked to describe Stephen in one word. At first, I thought it was going to be difficult, but the word authentic popped right out of my mouth. I received a curious look from the person who asked the question, not because they didn't believe me, but because authenticity and politics don't often go together, especially not when describing a politician. But I believe it perfectly describes Stephen. The man you see in public service is the same fellow I know, but to be honest, he is goofier at home. You see, Stephen sees his life's calling of that of service. Service in ministry through the church, and service to our community as an elected official. You've heard many of the things he has done today to help our community, but he has done so much more. In fact, we may never know all the ways he has helped our neighbors. Why? Because he does so quietly, not asking for personal glory or edification. He does so for a love of his neighbors and a commitment to his community. But today, it's our turn to help him and all our candidates this election season. The last few years have been hard, really hard. It's time for us to get out of our comfortable places and rise up. Politics is hard. Honestly, it's a lot harder than I ever would have imagined, and it takes a toll on the individuals and the families who have chosen to serve. So today, I'm asking you all to rise up. Speak truth when misinformation and lies are spread. Talk to your neighbors, have conversations with them. Ask why they support their candidates, and tell them why you support yours. Small actions done regularly affect change. Rise up, use your written word to speak out through the media, social media, and personal notes to neighbors. Small actions done regularly affect change. Rise up safely, get out in your communities. Knock on doors, go to community events, throw candy at parades, all to support your candidates. Remember, small actions done regularly affect change. You don't have to be the loudest or the most outgoing in the room to affect change. To be honest, I would prefer to be sitting in your seats than standing here right now. But I have chosen to rise up for my candidate. You each have your own unique talents. Commit to using those today to rise up for your candidates too. Now I'm going to ask you to do something. Make a personal commitment. Physically rise up out of your seats, those that are sitting, and show your neighbors that you've made a commitment to rise up for your candidates in your own special way. Now, I know it seems a little bit awkward. You might be a little bit frozen, like I am. But small actions done regularly affect change. Look around. Be empowered. We are united for our candidates. Your action has started today. Don't let it cease from now through next November. Now I'm going to ask you to do one more thing while you're standing. Let's clap our hands, raise our voices. Well, wake up Roncevert to show our thanks and support for our Senator, Stephen Baldwin.
You can sit down now, unless it's more comfortable for you to stand up. Maybe you stay a little warmer that way. Thank you all so much. Honestly, this has been kind of uncomfortable today. Because it's just personally uncomfortable. I'd much rather be working with y'all than hear y'all talk about me. But I am eternally grateful to have that chance to be able to work. And if you think it's cold today, those of you who were part of my announcement in 2016 that I was running for House know that part, was that not a lot cooler that day in Oregon Cave and Jane? Yeah, this is Florida compared to that. again want to say thank you all very much for being here today and for everything that you do to support our community. It truly is a community effort. Some folks have asked where Harrison is today. He's the star of the show. Harrison is at school today. He loves school, and so he is at school today. I want to say thanks to everybody who spoke today so eloquently and said such kind things, some of which were true. Sarah, I'm so sorry I yelled at you. I'd forgotten about that. But you hadn't. I want to say thank you to my church, Rollinsford Presbyterian Church, that's always been so supportive of seeing ministry, or seeing public service as ministry. That's a big deal. Not many congregations, I think, would be willing to do that. Thank you all for doing that. Thank you to Carrie. She did not want to speak, but didn't she do a great job? I told her. Her speech is way better than mine, so you all just know that at this point. All right, let me get right to it. I gathered everybody together here today to tell you that I'm announcing my campaign for re-election to be your senator for the next 4 years. That was a tough decision. It was not a decision that I came to quickly or lightly. It's a full-time job that requires your full-time attention, all your heart and all your soul. And I wanted to spend a lot of time in prayer and reflection and make sure that I had that to give to you. And after much prayer and reflection, I decided that I did. And that I wanted to put my name on the ballot and let the communities that I represent, decide if I should serve for the next 4 years. And I did that for 3 reasons. When it came down to it, there were really 3 reasons. Number one, we're at a critical time in our nation. And I know every politician always says that. And I get tired of politicians saying that. But I really think this is a critical moment for our nation and our state. We're bitterly divided right now. I mean, we've just come through Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a wonderful example of how bitterly divided we are, because what do you talk about with family members at Thanksgiving when you have masks and COVID and politics, and we've politicized everything to this point where it's hard to even have a conversation with your family members. President Washington warned back in 1792 that political partisanship would tear our nation apart if we weren't careful. In 1792. And I'm afraid that we're starting to see that. People are either for you or against you with no in between. Parties stand in opposite corners and just lob political bombs at each other. This is a dirty word. Personal attacks far outnumber personal relationships. You wouldn't believe the attacks that have come our way the past few years. Those who hunger for power will say just about anything. And so for all these reasons, if that's the world in which we live at this point, for the sake of our children and for the sake of our republic, we've got to change that. And it's not going to change if we just sit around wishing and hoping. I have a very active theology of prayer. You don't say thoughts and prayers and that's the end of it. You pray, you work, you get your hands and feet into it, you do something. And so, that's my first reason. We've got to do something. And I want to make a personal commitment. I'm not going to attack my political opponents. I'm going to work together, just like I've done for the past 4 years, with anybody, anywhere, anytime, to try and improve life in West Virginia. We are not enemies with each other. Our enemies are division. It's time for good people to quit focusing on what separates us and instead focus on what unites us. That's what I've tried to do as your representative for the past 4 years. I voted with the Democrats when I thought the Democrats were right. I voted with the Republicans when I thought the Republicans were right. I've worked to try and bring as much money back home to our district as possible. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Should have been more, right, Steve? We did the best we could. I've kept you updated the best I could with town halls, social media, columns in the newspaper, as many ways as possible, Zoom, calls, emails, to try and make sure folks know what's going on. You know exactly what to expect from me, because you've seen it for the last 4 years. And like Carrie said, I can be kind of boring. But you know what? You know what to expect for the next 4 years. It's not going to change. Second reason I'm running is because there's so much work left to do. Sarah, we need high-speed, affordable internet, right?
Yes, we do.
We do. Paula, we need to be ready the next time a flood hits, right? We need safe, affordable drinking water, right? Mayor Pack, City Council, and City Council Member Hazelwood. We do. These are the issues that matter to people. I mean, we need good paying jobs so people can take care of their families. Politics today, people talk about all these other crazy issues that don't have anything to do with our lives every day. Those are the things people care about. Those are the things we need to be talking about. Those are the things I've worked on for the last few years. And those are the things I would work on for the next 4 years. I think that's what has got our country so divided. It's time to work together. Which brings me to my third and final reason as to why I'm running again. It's because the good fight is worth fighting. It's because good trouble is worth causing. You stand your ground when others want to take it from you. I am tired of our young people leaving the state. The greatest export we have in West Virginia is not coal, it's not natural gas. The greatest export we have in West Virginia is our young people. They are leaving in droves. I'm tired of family members leaving. It's happened to all of us. They go to North Carolina, they go to Virginia, they go to Pennsylvania, they go to the West Coast, they go to Texas. While I understand why some folks are choosing to leave, because I hear from those folks, I understand it. I choose to stay. I choose to fight. And I choose to have hope for a brighter future for West Virginia. I choose to work with each of you, and you all, I'm so grateful, have chosen to work together and with me for the good of this state. Several folks, Erin talked about this, Paula talked about it. 5+ years ago, when the Greenbrier River, mainly our streams and creeks, but the Greenbrier River as well, and in Alderson and in Roncevert, rose up, we came together as one. I will never, ever forget that. We put aside titles, and we put aside labels, and we put aside assumptions, and we just worked together. It was the most horrific thing that had ever happened to us, and the way we came together afterwards was the most wonderful thing that has ever happened in our community. Time and time again, when our backs are against the wall in southern West Virginia, we call forth our better angels, and we come together. That's just what we do. So I know you all are frozen. There's coffee and hot chocolate over here. There are pepperoni rolls, chocolate chip cookies, all my favorite things. I want to say thanks to Wild Child and then to Tootsie's for the food and the drinks. I want to thank you all for coming here today. Even more, I want to thank you for the many ways in which you serve our community every day. Like Carrie said, small actions done regularly affects change. You are affecting change. You are making a difference each and every day. And the more that we can work together, the bigger difference that we can make. So thank you all for coming. May God bless you all. May God bless West Virginia. Now we got a lot of work to do. Let's do it.
to remind you, you can give checks to Paul Chris, his treasurer today, or you can volunteer, sign up to volunteer, and you'll also get something good hot to drink over there. So let's leave this place with excitement and service to get Stephen back. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, thank you. Keep up the good work with Blue Skies.
Oh, yeah.
Sam, Pat.